Hi, and welcome to the Swan Effect Mums Coffee and Chat podcast. This week, I'm joined by Catherine, and the topic we have this week is the active mum. So we're going to be talking about mums that like to keep active. And there's a reason we've chose this, because Catherine has an area of expertise, and we're going to talk about that a bit further in the podcast. So first of all, I'm going to welcome you, and then I'm going to ask you, where do you live and who do you live with, Catherine?
Well, thank you so much for having us here tonight on the podcast.
No problem.
I've been really excited actually about talking about this, because the project I'm going to talk about, Babi Actif, is a bit of a passion of mine, so I do get quite into it. So I live in Betws-y-Coed, and I live with my 3-year-old whirlwind, as we call her, 3.5, Eva, and also 18-month-old Luca, and also my 17-year-old stepson as well. And I have a 14-year-old stepson as well that visits a lot. So yeah, busy household.
I didn't know about that bit. Wow.
Yeah. So when people say like, "Oh, wait till you have teenagers," I'm like, "Well, we have as well."
Yeah. You know what? I've been there because Phil had 2 older children, so they're adults now, but I met them when they were 17 and 14. I've been through the teenage years in that sense, and I know, what to expect now. So nothing's going to shock me, I think. Well, I say that it probably will shock me at the time, won't it?
Well, I think it was like, I was listening to one of your podcasts about the mother of the teenage parents as well. Yeah. And I was like, just sort of, it just resonates, and it's been, an interesting time with lockdown. And I do feel for them. Very difficult, much harder for them than it has been, I think, for my littlest ones, because they've not really realised what's happening.
No, not at all.
So, yeah.
So let's talk about Babi Actif. So you set up Babi Actif, which is basically active baby in Welsh, just for anybody that's not Welsh. So Babi Actif, after having your firstborn. You mentioned this was due to you looking for a way for mums like you to meet other like-minded mums. So tell us a bit about it, Babi Actif, and did you receive funding to start this project? What is it? Where is it? Is it fully Welsh, because obviously it's got a Welsh name, or is it bilingual, etc.? Just tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. Yeah, great. So the reason why it's set up is after my first baby, Eva, who's 3.5. During my pregnancy, actually, I was going along to a pregnancy yoga, and that's where I met a lady called Jenny, who's a mutual friend of ours, and somehow found out about what you're doing, and she delivered one of the podcasts as well for you. Yeah, Jenny got on really well, and it was like a great time to meet people, because although you had pregnancy in common, it wasn't like totally baby focused conversation. But so I ended up meeting like-minded mothers through that sort of doing something active, and but then that pregnancy yoga stopped, and I always thought, sort of in the few months after my baby, gosh, if I was pregnant now, I wouldn't have that available to me. So it just got me to thinking. I was a new mother, and I was thinking about, gosh, I'd like to go out and be active, but actually, as much as I was quite a sort of outdoorsy person, I still had some kind of barriers, really. Is that okay to do? Should I do it as a group? What do I need to do? And that sort of thing. So again, I guess the project just kind of started evolving like that, where we came up with this concept of being active with your babies in the first 1,000 days. So that's kind of a unique window into opportunity, and there's been lots of campaigns about good nutrition during that time. And actually the first 1,000 days is conception to age 2. So that's the sort of the focus of the project, really, is who we're at, sort of the target audience, if you like. And then the project idea kept growing. I spoke to my local health visitor, who was really, she was really into the concept. She talked about where to go for sort of further support. And then there was a Welsh Government funding opportunity that came about, called the Healthy and Active Fund. And it was quite a long process to get the funding through that, but eventually we were successful. And the purpose of that fund is to increase basically physical activity in people, and also for the purpose of improving mental health. Yeah. So that's kind of the focus of the project, really. Like, of course, it's about getting people physical and active, but a huge part of the project is about supporting people's mental health as well.
Yeah. When you're saying we, so it's you on your own though, Catherine. So who did you're saying we, so who was it, you and?
Oh yeah. So I actually run a company called Snowdonia Active, and we're a third sector organisation. We deliver lots of projects across Wales to do with getting people into the recreation, tourism, environmental side of things. And so I was able, through the company that I run, I've got a bit of freedom with the kind of projects I can develop. So that's we, when I say we. And then we were successful with funding. So we've been able to establish, recruit a coordinator for the project, Jeanette Wooden, who's fantastic and works on it 4 days a week for us, which is great.
That's amazing. So what are the health benefits for new mums getting outdoors and active once their babies are born? So for me, I had a cesarean and I went to the gym, I think 10 weeks after she was born. And the lady said, please be careful what you go on in here. You know, it's only been 10 weeks. I mean, you know, what do you guys do for new mums? Do you take new mums a few weeks after a baby's born, or do you give them, say, to come visit you a certain time after they've been born?
Yeah, so I suppose the major bit of what I've not really said yet is actually what we do. So I talked about like actually getting active outdoors bit, but there's a range of different sessions. So some of them are buggy fit. So that's quite straightforward. It's a pram walk with a bit of fitness. And in terms of what we let people do postnatally, we get third parties to deliver these for us. So I'm not actually delivering, we're sort of the project coordinators. So they will have so many weeks after your birth, you can do these activities with the clearance from your doctor. I think it's 6 weeks. And then they obviously know all this. And then 12 weeks if it's cesarean like you. I also had 2 emergency C-sections. So, you know, in terms of being more careful during that time, it's really important. But those people that we employ for that are postnatal fitness experts. You know, they've got qualifications that enable them to sort of deliver the right information. But then we also do a range of like what we call baby forest schools. That's kind of more about being in touch with nature and activities. So obviously in terms of postnatally, that's not necessarily super active in terms of exercise, but it's more about connecting to nature and just getting your baby outdoors. We've got some sort of sensory outdoor sessions, one called Little Steps, which is about movement in nature and songs and books. So, you know, it ranges really from sort of quite sort of physical ones to more just about connection and being outdoors.
So yeah, physical and like you say, mental health and physical health as well. So you can choose what you want to do, can't you? Exactly.
That's it. Yeah. And like you say about in terms of like the sort of mental, the benefits really, there's the physical activity side and getting outdoors is quite well documented for parents. So in terms of sort of being good for reducing stress, lowering cholesterol, obviously the fitness aspect of being healthy, but also babies. So there's quite a lot of research into the benefit for babies. So that window, we talk about the 2 years, you know, in terms of the activities that we do, a lot of it's about refining their motor skills, there's a language development and that sort of thing. And we're just trying to establish really this culture of people being outside a bit more and, you know, being active with their babies and building confidence.
I mean, this isn't on my list of questions, but one of the things I'm thinking would have helped and was the lockdown. People I know who weren't outdoorsy people at all were like, well, I'm going to go out for my 1 hour walk a day. I'm going to go out for my 1 hour walk. And I was like, well, you don't walk every day anyway. You never go anywhere. Yeah, I know, but I'm going to do it. And I think that's one little thing of positive about the lockdown is that it made people go outside more and appreciate, especially where we live. Sorry, so we're both North Wales based. It is beautiful where we live. And I think a lot of people just, me included, have taken it a little bit for granted some days. You know, I live past Conway Castle. I lived near Conway Castle all my life. I literally drive past it all the time and I don't even look at it. And then I'll have friends come down to stay and they'll go, oh, I can't believe you've got a castle in the town where you live. Oh my God. And I go, oh yeah. You know, and it's funny, but so I think the lockdown made people go out and appreciate what was there as well. And like you said, it gave them that getting out of the house, you know, good for the mental health. It was my partner went out and he never went out for walks ever. He loved it. But with the baby as well, it was really good for them to get out. Definitely. So talking about the lockdown. And I think go on, sorry.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say that's it. And I think that, you know, the project, although we've always had the sort of scope, it's not just been about reaching those that didn't do it, it's a bit about everybody keeping those going. You know, I think that it's one of the things we keep hearing from sort of the Flying Start areas who have now started funding some of our projects is that the project's got no stigma attached to it. So whilst we've connected to some of the kind of more kind of low demographic areas, it's just seen as something that is something to go to, that you meet people at. So and at first we were a bit like, should we call it Babi Active? Because as soon as you call it active, people think, oh, I've got to be super active to go. But what we've tried to do is, although that's the name of the organisation, the classes that we've done, things like Little Steps, Little Explorers, we've tried to call it something not so much so it doesn't put people off as well.
Yeah, I mean, Babi Active, I think the name is perfect because you've got a baby. You can't be that active with a baby anyway. You know, you're not going to be running. Well, you could run a marathon with a pram, I suppose, but you know, you're not going to do that straight off, are you? You know.
No,
So talking about the lockdown brings me to my next question. So, how has Babi Active been affected during the COVID-19 pandemic? Have you been able to continue with classes outside when possible and virtually when on lockdown, or have you been able to provide both simultaneously? Why can't I say
both.
at the same time?
Yeah, so we were able to, obviously, whilst we were properly locked down. I was actually on maternity leave for a bit of it. So Jeanette did some fantastic things with organising some virtual sessions. So actually on our website, which is babiactive.co.uk, there's loads of postnatal fitness. It's a great resource now for postnatal fitness videos, because the people that were running the outdoor ones, we got them to do indoor ones, and recorded them and put them live on Facebook. We did some sort of like virtual craft activities that we were putting online. So again, the Facebook page, Babi Active Facebook page, got a whole host of different activities you can do with very small babies outside to help engage them. So in some ways, it helped us build this resource bank that we hadn't actually planned on doing. So that was really good. And then when restrictions lifted last summer, sessions were just crazy busy, because there was still at that point, and they're still busy now, but at that point there was no indoor baby sessions happening. And that's where we really sort of like, you know, hearing the stories from parents of just, they didn't know anybody, they just were grateful to come out. And I think one of the biggest things, I know, you know, one of the things you're going to ask is about the feedback, but I think one of the biggest things with this project is that, you know, you and I before this call, we had common ground about, oh, babies and sleeping, and I was trying to get my baby off and stuff, and people just haven't been able to have those conversations. And I think, like, you put something on your website about, you know, we're not given a rule book or a guidebook or an instruction manual for babies. And you hear what the health visitor says and things like that. But actually, I think I felt having a baby, I learned most from my peers and having those conversations about, oh, your baby doesn't sleep, or your baby's teething. Oh, right, that's early. Oh, mine is too. And that is what's come out of the sessions, is that people just needed those conversations. So, of course, it's about getting people outdoors and active. But one of the main drivers is just connecting people and getting them talking and having that common ground about having a baby.
It is. I mean, I can honestly, I've really struggled this time on maternity. I don't know if it's because I've got a toddler, so I'm not free to just leave with a baby whenever I want. It's a lot more, you know what it's like with a 3-year-old. You've got the potty, if you're potty training, you've got to take double everything. It's just, and they can be tired and grouchy, and it can be horrific. And I think, this has been, with lockdown, I don't know if you found it as well, I'll ask that later as well, but it's just been really quite lonely. And I'm not that type of person normally, and hence why I keep saying I did this podcast. I had to find an outlet for me to talk to people. I couldn't leave the house. And I think that's it. From talking to other mums, Instagram, the community is just huge, because there are so many new mums as well. And I feel so much for the new mums. I can't imagine going through the last 15 months that I've been through if I was a new mum, because I wouldn't have known who to ask, you know. And this is it. You go to your mums, you go to your mother-in-laws, you go to your sisters, your friends, things like that. And they go, oh, and I'll go, oh, my baby won't stop crying. I don't know what's wrong. And they go, don't worry about it. It's fine. Just give her some water. She needs some water. It's a hot day. When you've got on lockdown, you don't get that. Like you said, peers, you just don't. I'm not saying their advice is right. Let's face it. My mum's advice is from the 1980s. It's not always right. But, you know, it's welcome anyway, you know.
Support, isn't it? You know, or somebody to hold your baby for a bit, or someone to just put the kettle on for you, or, you know, it's a mixture of things, isn't it? And I think that's what people have, you know, not been able to have as well, which is really sad.
I think it's really important to, you know, there's certain mums that are really shy, and they wouldn't reach out to one-to-one to somebody. So if it's in a group environment and they've got their pram, it's a bit like their safety blanket. They've got a pram. They don't have to talk to people if they don't want to. They're just there to keep fit. I'm here to keep fit. But then if someone talks to them, then they, you know, they go, oh, great, someone's chatted to me. You know, it suits all needs, doesn't it? It's quite scary.
I was at a session, because obviously I've been going along with my little ones, some of them, and someone said to me, I don't really know how to start off a conversation with somebody. And it's like, you know, and I think they were very honest saying that. But like, and I was like, oh, you know, quite often I'll say, how old's your little one? You know, because it's common ground, isn't it? because you've both got babies in prem, and it's just sort of, and I think walking and talking's got less pressure as well. I think when you're in a baby group indoors, you often sit in the same spot and you're not necessarily talking to the person over there, whereas on these sessions you're all moving about a bit, so you might be next to someone different and some of the facilitators we've got, there's a lady called Natasha White, and she'll just be like, right, ask the person next to you their name. So just these little interludes, in between the exercises. Yeah. And yes, you probably, for some people that is quite daunting, but sometimes people have, the feedback we've had about her and the way that she facilitates the sessions has just been fantastic.
Sometimes you need to be pushed into it. I know, well, I don't know her, but I follow her on Facebook. She does so much on Facebook. She's amazing, to be fair, bless her. Yeah. So if COVID-19 is to, we've already been told in England it's going to prolong for another month. If it's going to be around longer, which they're saying it will now, we're going to have to learn to live with it. What do you have in the pipeline? So I don't think outdoors will be affected. I think outdoors is safe. Is it an all year round thing you do? So this walk and talk, do you do that in the winter? If it's raining or windy, do you still do it come what may, all weathers?
Yeah, before COVID, we sort of started by being affiliated. So in Conway, you might remember yourself, there's different models in different counties, and this project at the moment is Conway, Anglesey, Denbighshire and Gwynedd. So just let's take Conway as an example, because it's worked quite well there. There's 5 family centres, which are sort of not just Flying Start, but those and other areas in the county. And they're physical buildings. So we started by running the sessions from those buildings, and it was great because it just meant pre-COVID, if it was awful weather, like we try not to cancel in rain, but if it's hail and rain and it's really cold, then it's not very good for babies. So we would run it inside. So at least people knew that, come rain or shine, a session would happen, whether it be inside or outside, but they knew to come be prepared for weather. So I suppose because we've not had the indoor space, it's just meant that weather has made things a bit more temperamental. So yes, we will be running things, all year round. In terms of like the future of the impact it's had on the project, the vision, and it still is that we actually go into the realms of even more adventurous activities. So we're sort of looking at doing baby biking at the moment, doing sling walks, and possibly some sort of little monkeys climbing sessions. But we feel like with those, they're going to take a bit more, perhaps extra training for people that are delivering activities, and that's what we've not been able to do. So like a sling walk, for example, we might have someone qualified to take walks, but we feel that the person should know about baby carrying as well. So in terms of safe ways and what's safe for the mother and for the baby. So we plan on putting on additional training like that through the project, but just because of COVID, we've not been able to do that yet. So that is, in the future, something that we plan on doing.
So this again is anomalous. So tell me about Forest School, because 1, I think my daughter would love it. 2, I know that Jenny said that she couldn't meet me this week because she was going to Forest School. I think it was this week or last week, I can't remember now. And I was like, oh, that sounds really good. What is that and where is it?
There's a few of them about. So we've got about 4 Forest School sessions running a week. So got one in Llangollen, we've got one in Denby, one in Abergele, and then there's a sort of walking one in Llanrwst. So basically, it's when we say Forest School, it's like crafts, arts, nature activities, a bit of songs, a bit of stories in nature. So it's almost like a playgroup outside. In a station where like one lady made some natural paints. So she'd made some paints out of, I think it was a bit of washing up liquid, a bit of flour, a bit of water, and then some cabbage water to make it purple. And then she'd made some like natural paint brushes with a stick and some fern on the end. And obviously the kids just push around in them and do some painting. There's some sand activities, maybe water. So it's quite a sensory but stimulated by nature environment outside. I guess the inspiration, Forest Schools is a thing, but like in terms of bringing it to baby, it was slightly inspired by the indoor sensory sessions, the sort of spaghetti, but how we could do that outside, bringing in textures and things like that of nature.
I'm definitely an outdoors person. I always say beaches are great, okay, but my favorite place was when I used to go for big walks up the mountains with my dad, and we'd get halfway, we'd get to the top and we'd sit there with our little sandwiches, and he'd go, listen to that, and I'd go, what? And he'd say, exactly nothing. It was just so silent. And I'm definitely an outdoors person, but my daughter's starting to show that as well. Like she would much rather be in the garden than be indoors in the living room. She'll watch telly, and she gets fixated on it.
It can be quite calming for kids as well, can't it?
Yeah. Oh, she'd love that. That's I'm going to look into that for her, definitely. So
I'll send her all the dates.
I will, yeah. Oh, she's a bit of a handful, but I think she needs things like that to, get involved in. So the next question, you hosted an online event, and this is quite a while ago now, with parenting specialist Anna Martha, talking about lockdown parents, being a new parent during a global pandemic, which I did register for, but I couldn't attend it on the day because of Ronnie and Baby. So I caught up on the Babi Actif YouTube channel, so you can check that out as well. Is this something you'll be offering more in the future? Is this something that you do a lot of anyway, or is it something you did because of lockdown and you might continue to do so from now on?
Yeah, it was driven really by lockdown. And I think, when we were sort of brainstorming the things that we could do, that weren't face to face, we started thinking about what were people saying on sessions. So obviously there was this thing about, needing other parents to talk to. But actually what a lot of people were saying was they were quite worried. And to be honest, I'm the same. Like until we got back meeting people, I was quite worried that my 18-month-year-old just would be awful with other people, because how would he have developed socially when all he's seen is the direct family in the household and things like that. So I think that's what drove that, was finding somebody. We didn't need the postnatal fitness expertise at that point, because we had that through the people that were running sessions. It was more that kind of what do people need in terms of reassurance of are the baby's going to be okay. And it was a great session, and we talked about the resilience of babies, and we talked about easing back into things opening up, which was really good, because I think that some parents have felt the pressure that, oh gosh, things are open now, we need to go to everything, but actually you take things at your own pace, and that was really important. So we don't have anything in the pipeline like that, but it's certainly we've sort of started talking about guest bloggers delivering things for the project and things like that. So and we're always open to ideas and like running with good things. So, it is something we would do in the future, I think.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. I think things like that are really good for people, because it's just a case of someone like myself just sitting there and watching, really, isn't it? And getting involved if they want to say something. I just thought the whole concept was really good, especially, people are feeling the pressure, like you say. I was, and I think I rushed she's 3 in a couple of days, but I rushed my 3-year-old into social life too quickly. I know I did. And I remember saying, why is she having full-on tantrums and meltdowns? And I have to visit a friend, and we'd go for a walk, and she would just create, and it would ruin the whole experience. And I'd go home and I'd cry, and oh, she's so naughty. And then I'd realize, no, I've just literally, all she's known is she's been to childcare 2 days a week, but it's 3 kids in there. So she's had the same 3 kids for a year and a half, and me and dad, and now the baby, and some of the parents, grandparents. And then I've gone, oh, let's go for a walk to a beach. Let's go to Manorama Farm, where there's like lots and lots of children, and it's so overwhelming. So I'm definitely one of those parents that did it. So I'm trying to pull it back.
Although it's not been our fault with lockdown, I think there's been a bit of like guilt. I felt guilt of them missing out on things. So I'm like, gosh, everything's open now. I just need to take it, like, gosh, and the joy, you get both, don't you? You get the joy of originally being there, then you get the tiredness because they're not used to or everything going on. So it is hard to get that balance, and just knowing, I think with anything in parenthood, knowing when to say no, and I'm going to have a day at home.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, even though I've just been on lockdown, I'm gonna have a day at home. I've done that myself. I'm like, actually, do you know what? I kind of miss lockdown a bit, because I want the excuse of just staying at home.
Definitely.
So what feedback, you talked about this before, but what feedback have you received from mums since starting Babi Actif in 2019? So how many members did you start with, and how many members have you got now, and all that in between?
I think we've got around 1,500 that are following the Facebook page, and I think we've had around 450 parents through the programme, because it's not just for mums as well, so it's for dads as well, although as you can imagine probably 99.9% of who we get are mums, but it is good that it's open to dads as well. And in terms of like,
Catherine, can I just, with you saying that, the reason it's probably mums is it during the week? Do you have weekends so that dads
don't happen actually? And that's something that again we should and have been thinking about looking at with the project, because of course it's the mums generally that are on maternity, although I know some work shifts and things like that. And the buggy fit ones, I don't think we've ever had a dad to, but the forest schools ones, because it's more like a sort of outdoor crash, that's more of interest. So we're definitely sort of aware of where the patterns are really. But I mean, there isn't really any particular reason why we've not done it outside. I guess it's just we've sort of slightly coincided when other play groups fitted around those, and generally put them into the timetable of family services across counties. But in terms of how many people, we find that virtually every single session is fully booked, and with wait lists as well, which is fantastic. And they sort of fill up quite quickly as soon as they're booked, as soon as they're advertised. And in terms of feedback, it's just, it's such a range. We have people saying things, and I almost purposely aren't reading out quotes because I get quite emotional, because I'm just so glad that it's like, meeting people's needs, and it's just amazing. But we get people saying things like, it's just been fantastic for my physical and mental health, talk about the benefits to perhaps pelvic floor and things like that from a fitness point of view. We get people saying things like, I'm so glad it's been on because I've met a new mummy friend that I didn't know and now we meet up. We get people saying that they have made like WhatsApp groups as a result of coming to the session, so that then they meet up, subsequent, in addition to the sessions. We get people saying things like, in terms of increasing extra exercise, people saying that I now walk to the session and walk back, which is not something that, I'd have considered before. Which is really good. And I think just like people saying it's just been a lifeline, particularly this year. We haven't really ran much of it outside of lockdown, so it is good that the project's continuing, because it'll be good to compare it. But just how much of a lifeline it's been for people, just because and for their kids, noticing that, again, I can give the feedback of my 18-month-old worried, what's he going to do with other kids? But they're just inquisitive. And one session there was another little boy his age, and they just go up to each other, and someone said, do they know each other? Because they were like giving each other flowers and kissing each other, and I was like, no, you're just glad of another little person to mix with.
It's strange, isn't it? Because Fionn is in playgroup. She started in January, and the playgroup workers were saying, because we only meet them at the door with masks on, and it's a quick drop off, we don't really have full conversations. But they were saying things like, oh yeah, she's okay, she hasn't really mixed with anybody yet, and we asked her to join in for sing songs, and she's quite happy playing on her own with the toys. And you're thinking, oh no, lockdown's really affected her. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, today it's now been 5 months, and the woman said, she came over to join us today. We didn't even have to ask her. And you just think, yes. And then that's silly, little things like, yes, because it just means that socializing is starting to work with her now, and I'm so glad, because even though they are resilient, it obviously has affected her a little bit. So I'm so glad there's things like that. And I just think forest school would be, how old can you be to do these things?
We say the thing is, it is up to 2, but if you've got any child within a 2 unit, up to 2 unit, you can come along with your other one. So, you can bring them both. And that's fine. I think she'd enjoy it. And I sometimes take along my 3.5-year-old.
Yeah, definitely.
But in terms of obviously feedback, we've got a lot of anecdotal feedback. We've sort of done some satisfaction surveys and things like that, but it is actually been evaluated by Bangor University, the project, using a couple of sort of wellbeing measures and physical activity things and stuff, all very complicated for me, but we get them to do that. But that's actually what will be really good in terms of the project continuing for a couple more years. We can sort of see the true impact of it, and the hope is that the projects that are funded through this stream at the moment, those that show that they've, I guess, been successful and can be rolled out, could well be rolled out further across Wales. So that would be really exciting.
That'd be really good. Yeah, definitely. Catherine, you might become really, really busy. Imagine you going all the way through Wales. You're going up and down the country.
Yes.
So at the moment, as you said, it's North Wales based. So if anyone in North Wales is looking to find out more about this, again, as we were saying, you don't need to be hugely active. You don't need to have been a fitness person before you became pregnant. It's just sometimes, for example, if somebody's new and they're a bit nervous, I would say the buggy walk one would be the best, don't you think?
Potentially, yeah. Or like even the little steps that we've got at the moment, that's running in Prestatyn and Conway. So Bodlondeb, where you'd know probably, the culture centre, which is basically like sort of songs, Welsh and English songs. It's nature movement, so it's babies through the air like birds. It's very much like perhaps a sensory session you'd have inside, but it's outdoors. So something like that would be, a good sort of ease way in. But, we get people coming to, all of them who have never been very outdoorsy, or you just don't have to be, at all.
You don't have to go in there with your sweatband around your head and your wristbands ready to go.
People, it's absolutely fine.
So just in case anyone's wondering, because I was as well, even though it's called Babi Active, and you were saying about Welsh and English, is it majority? Because I've applied for things sometimes, and the lady has spoke fluently in Welsh to me, and although I can I understand Welsh. I really struggle with Welsh speaking it, and it's put me off a bit. Is it half and half? So people that aren't Welsh can they go?
It's some are, because the facilitator can speak Welsh and English fluently, and then it's sort of very seamlessly incorporated. So it would be instructions in both, or sometimes it'd be instructions in English and then like certain words, so those that are Welsh learners could pick out, oh, that's what bird is in Welsh, and then bird meaning the movement thing. I was just thinking of that. But yeah, and like sort of the postnatal ones, they are mostly English, just because of who we can get in the area, to run sessions. It just depends who, we can get to run sessions, but obviously we try to run them as bilingual as possible. But there are limitations sometimes with the facilitators that we can get.
That's great. Just in case it put anybody off, in case they thought I don't understand a word of Welsh.
No, absolutely.
But I also know from my job that to get funding, you need to bring in some bilingualism, because that's what Welsh Government say. So I know there would be some in there. So if anyone's looking to do these classes in the area, where can they find out all the details? So this bit now, Catherine, is where you get to plug everything. So your website, your social media sites, how do people find you? Can they email you? Blah, blah.
Yeah, so we've got Facebook, probably is the most up-to-date place, because as soon as we've got activities, we post flyers on there. And so that's Babi Actif if you just Facebook it. So it's BABIATI. I've done it wrong again.
No, you've done it wrong.
It's on the podcast title. Active, ACTIF. There we go. So Babi Actif with an F. And then the Facebook website is babiactive.co.uk. And then we also have an Instagram post as well.
Right, so just follow.
Not as active as the Facebook page. So Facebook really is the best place to go. The website will give you more of an overview of what to do. And then generally I think on each flyer it says to email the coordinator, Jeanette. So it gives you her email, and then you send your email address and she'll give you all of the booking on information. But she's very responsive and very quick at getting back to people.
One more question, sorry. Is this free for parents? Is it a free?
Yes, very good question. It's all free. Yeah.
That's amazing. So I just thought
we should put that at the beginning to keep people interested.
Yeah, it's great. I'll put it at the beginning as well. But so that's helpful. So there's no costs, which is great when you're on maternity leave, because your money dwindles quicker than anything. So yeah. And
we have had people say that in terms of feedback. That was one thing I didn't say. We've had people actually saying there is no way I'd be able to access this on maternity leave if I wasn't for free. And we've had quite a few people saying, oh, but could you do a means tested, how is it ever going to be sustainable if it's free? And we just feel like that getting outdoors and active is a barrier. If you put money in there, it's an additional barrier. And if you start saying to people, oh, you can pay and you can't, then that brings a barrier between people. So, for as long as we can keep it free, and it's funded, that's our plan.
That's amazing. Right. So a little bit about you now. So you offer so many different activities for parents, but what is your go-to when it comes to getting outdoors and exercising as an active mum?
Very good question. Before having children, my favourite all time is climbing. So I'm a climber. But I think you just sort of perspective on what is enjoyable changes when I love climbing, but right now with a 3.5-year-old and a 18-month-old, it's pretty hard to get out and climb like I used to.
Yeah.
But last summer we took my little one climbing for the first time, which was amazing. Not the 18-month-old, the 3.5.
Well done.
The 18 months did do a zip line in the garden the other day. That was quite fun. But I think I don't want to sound really cheesy, but just being on a river walk or something. And in lockdown, we did I'd do a nature scavenger hunt. I'm not, it's funny this is called the active mum, because I don't go on runs all the time. I'm not doing dumbbells in the house at all. I just love being outside and being quite physical, and chasing the kids around, teaching them to learn a bike, just, all
that's
that stuff.
Active mum. Yeah, exactly. To be an active person doesn't necessarily mean you have to be into triathlons. You have to be pumping iron in the gym all day, every day. And an active mum is someone that goes, do you know what? We've been indoors for 3 hours now. Should we go for an hour walk outside and go and do a nature walk? Should we go and have a look for leaves? Or get a little bag, we'll put these in. That's an active mum. That's just getting out, getting moving is the most.
Exactly. And we've got this, it brings me nicely to, as part of Babi Active, we've developed this things to do before you too pack. So it's almost finished. So anybody that come on sessions will be able to get one for free. So it's 30 things to do. We've stolen the idea from National Trust, which was 30 things to do before 11 3/4. But we haven't really. We just things to do before you two.
Yeah.
So what it'll be is it's a nice deck of flashcards, sort of the size of giant playing cards, clipped together with a carabiner. And on it are things to do before you two, like if it's a baby, getting them to rub their hands on different textures, or if you're outside listening to sounds, or just things that some people might find basic, some of them, because of puddle splashing, but not everybody that's coming to sessions even thinks to, okay, we will go out in a pair of wellies today. Yes. So the things to do before you two is a nice sort of pack of different stuff to do that is like that, just getting people outdoors and moving a bit more, like you say. I think
because you might want to, I always want to be more active, but then I just think, I get so bogged down with the logistics of getting them ready and getting things packed in. Like the amount of times I've gone out and put them in really hot clothes, and then the sun's come out and I thought, I haven't packed the summer clothes. It really stresses me out. And I just think, what could I do? So something like that would go, it gives you ideas. You don't have to stress about thinking about what you can do. If someone goes, have you tried this? This is a good idea. And you go, great, I can do that one. Yeah, that's easy. I can do that one. I think that's a great idea, definitely.
Yeah. So hopefully we, that'll be printed probably in the next couple of months. So like I say, anybody that coming on sessions will get a copy of that for free again. So.
Lovely. So finally, how have you found being a mum during the last, I've put 12 months, 15 months now. And what have you found challenging? And have you found any positives from having a 1-year-old during lockdown?
I have found positives. I was on maternity leave when the pandemic happened, and, I was furloughed part-time, when I was coming off maternity leave. So I had this extra time. I've been able to work from home a bit, which has enabled me to get sort of quite a good life-work balance. So it's meant spreading my hours over longer in the week, longer days, so I don't get set days off. My hours do 30 hours a week, so I used to have Fridays off, but because I'm obviously managing it over a week, it's a bit different. And we had my husband he runs his own outdoor company, Welsh Active. I'll do a plug for that whilst we're here. Taking slightly older people doing outdoor activities, and we just transformed our garden, and we had loads of great. And yes, we had financial worries because his business wasn't bringing anything in, his tourism business, but we did have some really, and almost I felt like the pressure to not, as much as this is about being an active mum and going out and doing things, the actual pressure of not having to do that, with 2 very small children was great. However, it did mean when things lifted, how I managed to outside without any, on my own was pretty tricky. It was almost going back to sort of the early days because I just didn't know how to do it. And I think I've really struggled. My family live in Sheffield, and I've really struggled that even when we had local lockdowns, they couldn't even see them. We went from September till about 6 weeks ago without seeing them, and I was just dreading that they'd have forgotten who they were. And tried to do things like my mum, bless her, she loves baking, and we do like a Zoom baking call with with Eve and my toddler. But the baby, so there was definitely, I found it hard, and just generally not meeting until the sessions started again, not meeting other parents with children the same age, just sort of have that support network. It's been really hard. I
think that's it with the lockdown. I get where you're coming from, because when I had Ronnie, I was so overwhelmed because Fionn she just turned 2. And I had this newborn, and I quite liked that people were coming, but they were wearing masks and not staying very long and then going. They just wanted a quick look at her and went. And I quite liked it. It was just this little bubble, me and the 2 girls in winter, because it was October. So it was great. There was no excuses. It wasn't very nice weather. I could stay indoors. It was lovely. And I think for about 3 months, I really enjoyed that part of it. That was one positive, is that I didn't have to share her with everybody at first. I got to have her for myself.
Have you heard of the first 40 days of being a new parent? So in some cultures, I've got a book actually, I'll share with you the title after. There's this concept of the first 40 days. So basically the 4th trimester that people talk about, which is when you've got your baby, but they're still very attached to you. And actually some parents just don't go out at all during that time. But obviously society makes, where are you going for your first visit? Where are you going out? Where have you taken them? It's like that. But actually this first 40 days is this period to really look after the mother, because the mother is the one that's carried this baby and just had the baby, but so that mother and baby are close, because that's what the baby needs as well. So I have spoken to some mothers that have embraced that concept, And obviously, of course, there's some like, you know, in reality, I'd have been driven crazy if I couldn't go out for 40 days. But actually, the slowing down, I think, that lockdowns made you do has definitely had its benefits.
Definitely. I definitely feel like it's different this time because I was at home. Like I said, you have to look after yourself as well. And do you know what? I think new mums, we've got a bit of separation anxiety with our babies as well. You know, we've kept them so safe for so long. And you think, and I remember with Leon, my eldest, and I was having to pass her to people. And I was like, just be careful. Well, where are you going? You got to be careful if you're taking her into the kitchen. I was just a nervous wreck. And I was like, why? I trust these people with my life, but it wasn't that. She wasn't in me anymore, and I couldn't look after her, and I had to give her to other people, and it scared me to death, honestly.
I think it's definitely, I mean, I know some people might say the opposite, but I think for me it was easier being a second time mum during the pandemic than
absolutely.
Because I had some support network at least from the first time round. You know, but,
you knew what to expect as well, to a point. I know they're always different, every baby's different, but you kind of got the gist of what was expected.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. But so, I'm amazed at you starting this up whilst you've got two very young ones.
No, I'll be completely honest. I did this when Ronnie was a newborn. So newborns, do you know what? When I had my first newborn, I thought it was really, really hard. And then she became one. And I was like, oh no, this is hard. This is harder than the newborn stage. Then she became two, and I was like, okay, no, this is harder than the one and the newborn stage. And every year it just gets harder and harder because there's more things to worry about, and they can do more things, to become more independent. So I knew with Ronnie, she just slept, woke up from feeds, cuddles, and went back to sleep. And I thought, right, okay, I'm going to start this, because I was getting lonely. I was really, really lonely. I couldn't pop out to see my friends. And I thought, I'll do this. I just really fancied it. And I thought, I quite like talking. And I think I wanted to do the buggy thing, but I noticed that Fionn couldn't have come because she was over 2 at the time. And then I thought, will she like that if I've got a double buggy? And so, yeah, and I was a bit stuck with what to do. So I thought I'd do this. And it's, I think I've done about 20 recordings now.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, if anybody feel like that, like I took, obviously because I knew where the session would be, I took my 3-year-old along to the Llanrwys one, because you all know Llanrwys was by the park. Yeah. So actually there was a couple that brought their older children, and then they could play in the park at the same time. Really, you know, and that's, if anyone's got any, oh, could I come? If not, you know, definitely get in touch, because we'll certainly say if it's appropriate or not.
That's it. I mean, it was more me really, because because she's at the age where she'd run off, and I just think, oh, I didn't want it to be too stressful for me. It wasn't really like
a lot of it is definitely about the parent not being stressed. So on the days when I used to feel guilty not taking it, but I had the option of leaving her with my partner, Eva, older one. And actually I said, look, I need this for me. I need to take him along on my own so I can have chats with parents. I do not want to go along and just be chasing after her the whole time, because that's not what this is about. So I do get that as well.
Yeah, it's true. And that's the thing. I think that's why I get upset when I do take them both out and meet a friend, because I think, oh yeah, I get to see another human being, and I plan it and I pack everything, and I'm really prepared and excited, and then I get there and there's a meltdown, and I just go, oh, this is the first time in weeks I've arranged anything, and you have to decide now is the time to melt down. It's hard having a toddler and a baby, but yeah, but like I said, the blog and this has really helped, and talking to other parents and looking at different aspects has made me open my mind to the way I am as a parent as well, and it's definitely helping. I'm definitely becoming calmer. I learn like self about the outdoors, then I learn from one mother that meditates, and I think, oh, I've never done that, and then I try it and I think, well, that's actually pretty cool, actually that worked. You know, it's just learning different ways of doing it, isn't it?
Definitely, yeah.
Learning different things. So I will leave that there. I think that's been really, really helpful, and it's really, really good. So anybody, and I know a lot of my friends and a lot of my friends' listen to this, and I know a couple that are pregnant right now, so I'm going to pass this on to them as well.
Right.
So go on the website and have a look, and you can contact them via the website, or Facebook's the best option.
Yeah, try that.
But like their Instagram account as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Any likes is great.
Yeah, any likes is great.
Thanks
ever so much.
Thank you so much for having us on to talk about it.
We got there in the end.
No internet problems. It's great.
Oh, yeah, I know, great. Thanks very much, and thanks everyone for listening. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.